All right, Thursday almost there. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin with some breaking news tonight out of Central Command. U.S. forces intercepting unprovoked Iranian attacks as U.S. Navy destroyers transited the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the U.S. forces eliminating inbound threats and targeting the Iranian military facilities responsible for the attack in the area. CENTCOM saying it does not seek retaliation, but remains positioned and ready to protect American forces. Plus, the State Department will begin revoking U.S. passports for thousands of parents who owe $100,000 or more in back child support payments. The revocations are set to begin tomorrow and are expected to apply to nearly 3,000 deadbeats. Good job, State Department. And the Hantavirus infected cruise ship off the west coast of Africa is heading towards the Canary Islands. Once there, dozens of passengers are going to disembark and just go about their merry way. The WHO, though, because they've never been wrong about anything, says they pose little to threat to the general public. Who would believe the WHO? They're right about everything again, despite the fact that the virus has an incubation period of up to 8 weeks before symptoms. We're going to be doing a deep dive into this rabbit hole tomorrow. But first, the most underappreciated people in the country are getting hammered right now. Farmers. It doesn't seem like anybody other than Trump really cares about it. Let's do this. Look, if you live in America, thank God. For your freedom, thank a soldier, and for having food on your table, thank a farmer. But unfortunately, our farmers ain't feeling too good right now. It's planting season in most of the country, and record number of farmers can't or won't be planting their crops. And the ones that are, many are doing so with high hopes and low amounts of fertilizer and fuel.
Paying roughly $3.50. Now we're at about $5.50, so it's increased $2 a gallon.
Yeah, and that's off-road diesel, as much as 80 cents cheaper than the regular diesel you buy at the gas pump for the road. Many commercial farmers are going to need 10 to 20,000 gallons of fuel just to get their crops in the ground. Fertilizer's been steadily increasing ever since COVID. Obviously, you can see it spiked way up during COVID, but ever since then, it's been going up. And right now is right when the crops need it the most. But farmers are still backing Trump despite the direct hit to their industry. This goes to their character, I will say. This is called love of country, where sometimes you support something bigger than yourself. Reminds me of Paul Harvey at the Kansas City FFA in 1978.
God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer.
Pretty much. Guys, I'll be honest. I think farmers are the most underappreciated industry in this country. 86% of our country live in concrete towers on top of each other and just expect their food to show up on the shelf and be there ready for whenever they have a chance to go buy it. Hell, 7% of Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows. 1 in 5 don't know burgers are made of cows. And more than half of kids in a 2024 survey didn't know that pickles are cucumbers and that onions and lettuce are plants. But worse than that, the people who regulate this stuff don't appreciate it either. Many don't even understand how plants grow.
Look. Oh my God, look at this. Look at the collard greens. They're huge. Honestly, gardening, food that comes out of dirt, it's magic.
Congratulations, AOC. You've discovered agriculture, something mankind has done for thousands of years, but apparently it's new and shocking to her. Now do that for thousands of acres. See, people like AOC don't realize that farmers wake up before dawn with the weight of the world on their shoulders. Look, folks, I have a farm upstate. I talk to some of the ag guys and gals around me up there. They take their industry so personal. They wake up in the morning. They're not worried about their profit. That's like number 78 on their list of worries. Most farmers' number one concern, the weight on their shoulders, is being able to feed the nation. That's what they lose sleep over. They care more about feeding a bunch of people that can't keep a cactus alive than their own bottom line. Think about that kind of character. The same people who throw half their dinner, by the way, out because they didn't like the type of butter it was on the 5-star restaurant. Those are the people farmers are providing for. They're completely ungrateful for the most part. By the way, this perfectly illustrates why we have an electoral college, folks. Look, no farmer has ever had an 8-hour workday in an air-conditioned office, gone to HR because somebody said something mean or offensive. They've never complained that they have to lift a single box. Their cattle still have to eat and be milked on Saturdays and Sundays. Farmers work 12 hours a day, often 7 days a week, because their livestock and their crops depend on that. They take a knee at every meal to pray for rain so they don't lose their crop, so they can feed us. Their hands are calloused, cut up, backs ache, and yet wouldn't choose any other job in the world. In America's most farming-dependent counties, overwhelmingly backed Donald Trump in 2024 by an average of 78%. And now they're struggling more than ever. I mean, look, there's no doubt that Trump has been a better friend to the farming industry than probably any president in my lifetime. In his first term, he allocated almost $110 billion to aid farmers, especially at the beginning of COVID, while Biden admin spent less than half of that. Obama was less than $12 billion. Trump's big, beautiful bill this term gave another $50 billion and gave waivers to inheritance for the next generation of farms. But they need more now. And before the liberal media and all those terrible people inside, they got what they're voted for. That's a bold statement coming from the same people who could never grow their own food. Someone like Rachel Maddow, if she even eats meat, could never hunt for an animal to sustain herself. So how about a nationwide movement to help them? It's not unreasonable. Think about this for a second. When banks made outrageously risky, stupid subprime loan to borrowers with no income requirements just to make a quick buck, the taxpayer bailed them out to the tune of almost $1 trillion in payments and subsidies. We should have let those guys go bottoms up. We subsidized auto companies to build stupid electric cars that nobody wanted and they can't sell now. Green energy companies getting like multi-billion-dollar unaccounted for grants for pet projects that will never turn a profit and have no use in society today. Some that went bust before fully functioning, like Solyndra. A $53 billion for microchip companies that seemingly most of Congress invested in the companies right before they passed that bill, by the way. They made billions of dollars cumulatively. You got airline bailouts and Amtrak and state government handouts, bridges to nowhere in California, and the federal government allowing China to buy farmland right out from underneath struggling businesses. Man, this is a case of priorities, guys. You have cities voting to give money to black people who were never slaves for reparations. Yet not one of those same cities, like San Francisco, has ever even remotely occurred to them to route some of that money, 30 miles down the road to make sure they have something to eat this season. Again, the case for the Electoral College because of the exchange of values. What's even worse, only 2 states, Florida and Illinois, have a right to garden built in their laws. While giant companies like Monsanto suing the small guy, genetically modifying everyday plants to outcompete the little farmer and the family that has been doing this for 200 years on the same plot of land just to undercut them to export it to China. And then state legislatures based in cities with very few people who live outside the cities and actually in the farmland turn around and tax farmers like they did in Connecticut up to 300% more on the same spot of land because they threw away all the tax revenue on subsidizing some other woke, stupid project. Why not supply every farmer with a government fuel card right now until we can get Iran sorted out? I'm 100% okay with my tax dollars going to that rather than fraud in little Mogadishu in Minnesota. How about no taxes on farms at all? Or we might go a season without food. Bet people would start thinking about it then. See, that's a problem today. Like I said, 85% of Americans don't see farmland in their day-to-day lives. So they have no idea how hard this industry is hit on people that already work harder than almost any other industry. As of today, 70% of farmers either can't or won't be getting their regular amount of seasonal crops in the ground, in part because they haven't gotten help from government officials, most likely because those government officials haven't been personally affected by it yet. Either way, this is an issue because most of our media has never as so much as held a shovel. So they're not reporting this because they don't know about it, they don't understand it, and they really don't know how critical it is. 4th-generation farmer and founder of the National Black Farmers Association, John Boyd Jr., and Wisconsin dairy farmer, Cozy Nook Farm, Tom Oberhaus. John, you've been here before. We've talked about this. It's a problem.
Well, it's a major problem, and it's planting season. and the high cost of fertilizer, it's up about 35%. That equates to about $140 a ton, or for the good, strong fertilizer, 20, something like that, 20. That's up $200 a ton, and the price of diesel fuel is up, and we have over 200 farmers facing foreclosure. And as you mentioned at the top of your show, corporate America hasn't came to the aid of these farmers, and they have a foreclosure notice within 90 days. The government, foundations, and we just here with no support. And these are generational farmers who understand the art and skill set of farming that's, is going down with no assistance here.
Right. Hey, Tom, I mean, look, like you said, generational farmers. The problem is it's not like the tech industry where they can just build a new factory. When if you guys go out of business, you're not coming back.
Right.
You know, this one of these things, like, it takes years to raise a cow to bring that milk to market. How big a deal is this for people that aren't even paying attention to it?
It's a long-term business, and it goes through ups and downs. And right now we're in a tough down spell. Hopefully we can work our way through it.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, John, 70% of farmers, they can't afford, or they're not able, or it's not profitable for them to grow their fields. Some of them are doing, crop circulation, like they're going from corn to legumes or something like that, just to, exchange the nutrients in the soil. But that leads to massive shortages. And right now, ethanol that we put in our fuel, E85, that's made from corn. But if you can't grow corn because it takes too much nitrogen, that's a cascading effect.
It is, and that's why you see a lot of farmers that haven't planted their corn crops, because it takes so much more fertilizer than it does for soybeans. And the American consumer is the one who's going to pay the price when they walk into the supermarkets and have to pay a whole lot more for corn flakes, it's produced by corn, and cooking oil and wheat, that's used for bread. Like you mentioned at the top of the show, a lot of people don't even know what these items come from, what items that are grown on the farm and what they're used for. The American people are going to pay the price for what's going on now. And again, I believe that we can do a little bit better at supporting America's farmers and make sure that they stay on the farm at this critical time in history where this is such a difficult time out here for farmers.
Tom, I know you're in dairy, but obviously beef market is a paralleled market because it's both cows. You have record beef prices right now. I mean, we are incredibly high beef prices, yet at the same time, we have farms dwindling, never coming back, record lows of cows existing in America.
Right, and that's why beef price is up so much, because there's a shortage of cows. I mean, it's supply and demand. We're short of cows, and so the beef price is up.
Right, but usually, for instance, silver. If silver price goes way up, all these mines pop up, people start mining more stuff. Why or how is there not more people trying, or at least succeeding in raising cattle?
Because it's a long-term deal. You don't just get back in the beef business in 6 months. It takes years to build back numbers, and it's a long-term proposition.
What if you started today? If you were in charge, sitting next to the president, what would you tell him, and how would you map out increasing the cattle population in America?
Boy, that's a deep question. I do say I liked your idea of a gas card. I would just rather have a diesel card than a gas card. Most everything runs on diesel for us. That would be really helpful right now to get through this challenging time. As you mentioned earlier, there, most of us as farmers, though, we understand it's a long-term deal. We still support the president. We support the whole Iranian thing, and we have hopes that not too far off in the distance, we can have fuel prices back down where they were, and have fertilizer flowing through the strait, and be back to where we were.
Yeah. Well, Tom, John, I want to let you guys know you and your industry is not forgotten here. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much, man.
All right, coming up, another massive fraud scheme uncovered. Money not going to farmers there. This time, Ohio taxpayers footing the bill. There's a lot of farming in Ohio that could use that. We got the reporter who uncovered most of this egregious government waste. He's We've seen 20 years of reporting, obviously, breaking down his findings later on the show. But first, the democracy is dying Democrats are back with their fear-mongering, including President of IRF, Stacey Abrams, as Republicans in southern states continue to advance redistricting efforts against Democrats. Latest garbage from them, next.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time. Fatty 15 actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. That's why I take Fatty 15.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's All-American customer service team is standing by.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
All right, yeah. The Democrats are in the FO range of the FAFO part. Redistricting race heating up, especially in southern states. 2 major states passing redistricting maps this week, Tennessee and South Carolina. But of course, the left is losing their minds. It's a threat to democracy. Here from the left-wing democracy docket. Quote, South Carolina clears first hurdle on path to gerrymandering, eliminating black districts. Yes, because we don't base our congressional districts on your skin color anymore. That's what the Supreme Court said. This goes on. South Carolina Republicans took a crucial step towards redrawing the state's congressional map in an effort that could dismantle the state's lone Democrat district, long represented by Jim Clyburn. And of course, the same rhetoric from Tennessee. Tennessee Republicans changed state law to pass new map, carving up majority black district. And those House Democrats went berserk today after their special session. And then you got the president of IRF, failed gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, of course, says that Republicans are intentionally eroding black voting power.
61% of the 9th congressional district is African American. 64% of Memphis is black. And with this decision, they have managed to divide that number so that there are 33% of the black population in 3 different districts. They did this intentionally. They know that they are intentionally eroding black voting power.
Oh, is that why you lost the race for governor in Georgia, even with record black turnout? I mean, like, New England is 43% Republican. We have 0 congressional representation. Black people can still vote, lady. If these libs care so much about voting rights and representation, they should probably pass the Save America Act. Rebecca Rose Woodland, lead trial attorney and partner of Woodland LLP. Sorry, I messed that name up. But Ike Wingate, host of Ike Wingate America. Rebecca, it just seems like they think that like the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment vanished overnight. It's still there.
Well, that's what they're trying to say. Republicans are trying to erode their voting. No. Voting was eroded, and that's why the Supreme Court came to say last week, oh, no, we have to only use regular, not race, in determining districts. So how are they saying, well, now you're eroding. No, we're not eroding anything. We're just making an equal playing field right now.
They don't like that.
No, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's why the Supreme Court 6-3 decided that.
Yeah, exactly. All liberals wanted to go back to race-based districting. Weird. But in the case they're concerned about, it's the threat to democracy, Ike. Don't worry. Jen Psaki says that Democrat voters get to, they get to choose their candidates. Roll this.
What is exciting about it is that you, the people out there, get to choose. There is no, thank God, dark room in Washington where people sit around, they decide here's who the nominee is going to be. Typically, that's not how it happens. It's not how democracy works. There's going to be a whole process, and maybe 30 people run for president. And the thing with Barack Obama is he wants to leave space for that.
Pretty sure that's exactly how Kamala Harris was picked and chosen to run in 2024, right?
Yeah, it was a coronation. There was no convention or anything like that.
There's no vote?
Not one single vote. She seems to have forgotten that, but that's not the only time that this has happened. In 2020, the elites got behind Biden. They pushed him out. And then back in 2016, even Donna Brazile, in her own book, said that the Hillary Clinton campaign controlled all the funding, all the primaries, and Bernie was still in. They have a habit. They have a pattern of doing this, and it's about time something changed.
Well, Rebecca, here's another thing, too. We did a whole bit last night on rhinos getting the axe and being shown their feet to the door. Turning Point USA looking to primary Senate Majority Leader John Thune. He's not done really anything.
No.
So
he hasn't supported MAGA. He hasn't supported the party. So Turning Point is saying, hey, we'd like people who represent the party and people who represent Donald Trump, who has been elected as president.
Right.
We want those agenda items to be completed. And if he's not on board, hey, we'll primary you.
Yeah, I mean, how are you against the Save America Act, Thune?
The rest of the country is not against it. I call this powdered wig politics. It's basically, let's do the same thing we've always done and expect a different result. Loved your mono last night, by the way. It was a smackdown in Indiana.
50-point margin.
I mean, it wasn't even close. John Thune should absolutely be paying attention. Nuke the filibuster, get rid of the powdered wigs. Let's go.
No, 100%. But the other thing is protecting our voter rolls. Minnesota, the House Democrats voted down legislation that would have removed dead people. Who's what?
They say, oh, we just want to keep them on the roll for historical. No. They want to keep them on the roll so that if someone comes in and impersonates a dead person, oh, well, I don't know, they're there. Okay, sure, let them vote. That's why they're letting them stay on the voter roll. There's no other reason. And why wouldn't you clean up the voter rolls?
Well, it's super easy to get, I don't know, a mail-in ballot from one of those people.
That's what I'm saying. Dead people is basically what they say in Minnesota. That's the same place that you can vouch for up to 8 other people to vote that aren't even there. They do not care about voter integrity. And I wonder if this violates the National Voter Registration Act, where you're supposed to keep your rolls clean, because they're not doing it there.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, my grandparents voted Republican till the day they died, and they voted Democrat ever since. Rebecca, Ike, we appreciate it. Thanks. All right, coming up, the 2020 election fight is exploding all over again. A federal judge now handing the Trump and the DOJ a huge and righteous win involving Fulton County ballots, and Democrats, they ain't happy. What are they so worried about? I thought it was all above board. Deets next.
For the love of your life, have your engagement ring custom made by the Jewelry Exchange. 1-carat certified lab diamonds, $4.99, or natural GIA for $15.90. 14K mounts are $4.99. Thousands of choices, always the best deal. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
This Memorial Day, we honor the brave who stood watch over our nation's security. But today, security isn't just about physical borders. It's about the invisible threats that target our computers, our privacy, and our peace of mind. At PCmatic, we're proud to continue that legacy by protecting your digital world. Unlike traditional antivirus that reacts to threats after they've already hit, our global allow listing technology stops them before they can even start. We don't just stop hackers, we also clean out the digital clutter that slows you down, making your old computer feel like it's brand new again. From American homes and local businesses to our nation's government agencies, We provide the only cybersecurity that's 100% researched, developed, and supported right here in the USA. PCmatic, built by Americans for America. Visit PCmatic.com today.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed. And you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Dale, you really need to get that colon cancer screening. Yeah, it's been forever. Dale, we can do it with just a blood test. Shield.
Shield is for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk for colon cancer. Ask your doctor about FDA-approved Shield.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
I live for Democrats being in like full panic mode. A federal judge just handed the Trump administration another major win and ruling that the DOJ can keep the hundreds of ballots seized from Georgia's Fulton County as part of the 2020 election investigation. The judge essentially shutting down efforts to force investigators to hand the ballots back, which clears the way for the probe to continue, leaving the Democrats big mad, especially Fulton County Board of Commissioners Chairman Rob Pitts. Roll this.
I'm disappointed in that ruling, but not surprised because the judge, let's be clear, is a Trump appointee. So even though the facts and the truth are on our side, I'm not surprised at the outcome. We're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to use every tool at our disposal to retrieve and have those documents returned to us here in Fulton County, Georgia. I mean, they're going to be in for the fight of their lives if they think that we're going to roll over and play dead. It's not going to happen.
Funny how the same people who spent years insisting there was nothing to investigate, most secure election ever, are now furious that there's an investigation into that same election. Newsmax legal analyst Jay Town and legal and political strategist Katie Zacharia. Katie, if there was nothing to hide, then what's the problem? Look at the ballots.
The truth has nothing to fear of investigation is exactly what we're falling on here. And the judge basically said, while there may have been a few issues, they have failed to show that there was a callous disregard that could have led for irreparable harm. Let them look at all of the election irregularities. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this, because I remember watching that 2020 election, Fulton County particularly, and I know there is something up there, and I cannot wait to see them uncover this.
Right, but Jay, the other thing too is he says he's gonna fight like hell. What are his legal options here? The judge just ruled against him. They gonna appeal higher? Can it even be heard?
No, there's no appeal of a search warrant. Look, they hated Trump's phone call about 11,000 votes so much they impeached him for it. They hated it so much they indicted him for it in Fulton County. Hated it so much that they refused to reply and respond to the federal subpoena for the 600 ballot boxes that they eventually had to go get with a search warrant, and now they hate that so much that they're going to be in for the fight of their lives. It is very strange.
It really is.
That you go to Wes Allen, Secretary of State for the state of Alabama, and say, hey, we want to see your ballot boxes. He'd say, fine. And let me just give you a quick example, the difference between an audit and a forensic review, which the DOJ is conducting. An audit says I have 100 apples. A forensic review says I have 38 plastic apples, 20 glass apples, 41 Jonathan apples, and an orange. This is the stuff that exactly what DOJ is doing and what Fulton County does not want them to do.
Yeah, Fulton County. We've got 200,000 voters, but only 100,000 residents. Who knows? We'll see. All right, Obama running his mouth per usual here on this one, throwing a jab at President Trump, saying that the president should not direct the attorney general to prosecute people. Watch this.
The White House shouldn't be able to direct the attorney general to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants prosecuted.
Right, because technically it's under the executive branch.
Technically,
but the norm is that it's independent.
The idea is that the attorney general is the people's lawyer. It's not the president's consigliere. You can't have a situation in which whoever's in charge of the government starts using that to go after their political enemies.
And their big guy. Wasn't he the guy who directed Attorney General Eric Holder, his attorney general? He referred to him as his wingman and then told him not to testify to Congress about the guns that they trafficked to the Mexican drug cartel in Fast and Furious? Katie?
Wasn't he also the guy that had, people spying on President Trump's campaign to give information to the Democrat Party? And then they went and covered all of this up. This is, first of all, is that canned laughter. Second of all, he can't pronounce consigliere. It's not correct. And third of all, it is rich coming from him, because to sit in, I think Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche was like, you sit in your glass house and I'm going to throw rocks. This guy is absolutely unjustly accusing the president of doing actually exactly what President Obama did do during his time as president.
Yeah, but Jay, real quick, I mean, you've got this on top of the auto pen, on top of all this stuff from, it's almost like the entire left forgets that they did the stupidest stuff.
Well, he's the godfather of lawfare, right? And don't forget, and we sort of referenced it, but the intelligence community assessment that he ordered based on faulty, right, the IRS, all these things that all these consent decrees that he put on police departments for no reason. Remember the cop in Cambridge that he said acts stupidly? And
then
that cop was married to I had to have beer in the Rose Garden because I'm a regular guy. I love that Todd Blanche, when he was asked this about that quote, he pulled out a copy of the Constitution and read to the reporter in Article 2, executive powers are vested in the President of the United States. The President called a cabinet member and said there's a problem. They've done that, and that's why crime is down 20%, murder's down 20%, lowest in a century, robbery's down 18%, motor vehicle thefts are down 23%. Mm-hmm. You call your cabinet members when you see a problem, and they fix it. That's how competent people react.
Yeah, which is also funny because Joe Biden was Obama's vice president when he wanted to go after Mike Flynn for the Logan Act, and he told the Justice Department to look into it. I mean, give me a break. Katie, Jay, pleasure as always.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, free buses, free grocery stores, free health care, all promises that Mamdani made at the price of the rich paying their, quote, fair share, which they never tell us what that is. So where does the fair share end? When do you drive all the businesses out of your city? Culture Clash, next.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's all-American customer service team is standing by.
Americans have lost billions of dollars in their retirement accounts during the dot-com bubble of 2000.
And inflation is only getting worse.
Patriot Gold Group just introduced our America 250 Inflation Protection No Fee for Life IRA.
I'm sure glad Eileen and I rolled over our IRAs into gold in 2019.
On Wall Street, there's a saying, sell in May and go away.
My saying is, call the Patriot Gold Group today.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is Patriots protecting Patriots.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Dear Dr. K, I used to think I was never meant to be beautiful. I was teased because of my teeth. I didn't like the person looking back at me in the mirror. I never thought I could afford dental implants. You and your team worked within my budget and helped me feel confident in the plan we made together. I love my new smile. Thank you.
Congratulations, Cynthia. Introducing our new lifetime warranty on zirconia arches, only at Clear Choice. Call to schedule a free consultation.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-714-4212 or visit FAHW.com.
Again, Barack Obama sticking his nose in politics again, praising New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani because the socialist has just done such a great job. Watch this.
Look at somebody like Mamdani, who I think is an extraordinary talent. He wants people to be able to afford housing in New York.
Yeah, everybody wants that, but they're chasing out all the businessmen that bring in the revenue to pay for that, like Ken Griffin. Extraordinary talent?
What the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners, and principally my New York partners, is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami.
Great job. Just throwing away a $6 billion investment into your city. 6,000 highly paid construction jobs, another 15,000 permanent jobs in Manhattan, which means less people with jobs, less people spending money, and prices go up. Like rent prices soaring, new record highs, energy prices, you name it. So yeah, Obama, extraordinary talent. Mamdani's bankrupting the city. Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe and research analyst for the Media Research Center, Bill D'Agostino. Kay, it's like they slept through math.
Well, I think Obama's use of the word talent is super telling. You know, I've heard this rumor for years and years and years now that the Democrats like to recruit failed actors out of a couple of schools in New York and a couple of schools in LA, and they spread them out throughout the country and say, don't worry, you don't actually have to do anything. You don't even have to be a decent politician. You don't even have to be a decent person. We'll make sure somehow that you get elected because we'll play to the lowest common denominator. We'll lie through our teeth. And all you have to do is act the part and you'll get elected. And Mamdani is absolutely expert if we use that definition of talent. He is useless. Like you said, he's bankrupting the city. But, oh, he looks good on, like, social media. And, like, doesn't he get, like, clicks and likes? Oh, he's so charismatic. No, like, that's the people he's playing to.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that they're the ones who are going to get left in New York.
Yeah, well, they're the ones who work for the people that they're driving out, and they won't have jobs, and they're too stupid to realize that because they went to an Ivy League college. And here we have Democrats that don't want to fund the border bill. The Border Patrol guys are the one who are actually recovering children and locking up pedophiles. But according to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, Disney Cruise Line employees were among 28 crew members detained across 5 ships as part of a 3-day child pornography enforcement sweep. All the subjects were involved in either the receipt, possession, transportation, distribution, or viewing of child pornography. I mean, like, get the wood chipper ready.
Right. I know. What's incredible about this is the way the media have been covering it. If you look through the headlines of a lot of standard liberal rags, you won't see anything about the child pornography ring that is the impetus for these arrests to begin with. Instead, you just see ICE storms Disney cruise, shocking passengers, horrifying passengers. You have NBC talking about some lady complaining that she saw ICE arresting her waiter on a Disney cruise. And it's like, well, yeah, you're welcome, ma'am, because your waiter was distributing child pornography. So, I mean, look, if the media are going to continue to cover for these people, the lowest of the low, right? Not just some standard illegal alien, which that's bad enough, but people who are involved in heinous crimes like this, then there is truly no depth that they won't sink to.
Yeah, no, clearly not. Like you said, the headlines were storms Disney cruise. Right. All right, speaking of the weirdos and freaks and everything, the first openly LGBTQ judge in Texas, Kay, has agreed to I wouldn't give him much of an option here, but agreed to a lifetime ban from the bench after having a defense attorney handcuffed in her own courtroom. Now, Judge Rosalie Speedlin Gonzalez, is hyphenated, ordered the attorney in custody mid-hearing after an argument over whether she'd coached her client into changing his plea. Now, Gonzalez faces up to 20 years on a felony unlawful restraint charges, but those were dropped. But at least she's not a judge anymore.
Well, I think, yeah, at least she's not a judge anymore. And I think there's a heck of a lot of other judges across this country who could probably do with the same treatment. I mean, I'm not saying that we need to lock everyone up. You know that I'm not for that kind of thing, other than like pedophiles, like you said, wood chipper for them. But when it comes to women like this, men like this, who it's not just one-off cases like this, Carl. Mm-hmm. It's judges like this that are leading to the decline of cities and towns across America. It's judges like this who, they're the reason that the bodies are piling up on the streets in places like Los Angeles, in places like New York, Chicago, Philly. All of these cities, all of these jurisdictions, yes, you can go ahead and blame the, higher levels of politics or whatever you want. But really, it's the judges who make these final decisions. And there's a heck of a lot of them that really are just not designed to be in that role. And they'd be very good at, being paid protesters.
Correct.
Something like
and
that.
At some of these lower levels, some of their rulings that are wild and crazy never get touched because nobody hears about it. Bill, obviously you've been seeing this, Pratt running, he's the only candidate saying that, no, we should not have citizens voting at all whatsoever. But when you ask the Democrat, well, watch this.
Is this a yes or no, Mr. Pratt?
No.
Mayor Bass?
It depends. It's not a yes or no.
Yeah, I would say, again, it does depend.
Bill, it is a yes or no. Can citizens or non-citizens vote?
Right. I mean, I can't fathom what it could possibly depend upon, and frankly, neither can Karen Bass or that third person whose name I'm not even remembering. It doesn't matter. She's not going to win, because their answers were complete word salads. Right. They couldn't answer the question because they can't just come out and say, no, I don't support that, because unfortunately, a large portion of their constituents, at least by their own perception, want non-citizens voting in this election. I mean, the fact that this is even a question being asked at a debate anywhere in America is a sign of how bad things are getting.
100%. You're right. Kay, Bill, appreciate you coming by.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, it's no Leering Center, but massive fraud appears to be running rampant in another Midwest state, except this time, this state is run by Republicans. The man behind the bombshell report, Luke Rosiak, next.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? suit. What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
I've been using Experian Boost to help raise my credit scores, but Experian Boost is even better because now my monthly insurance payments could help boost my scores too. It does it instantly and it's free. So get it through the Experian app.
Hello, this is WWE Hall of Fame wrestler Mick Foley. Across this great country, there are thousands of veterans with no place to call home. They deserve better.
Welcome to my new home.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is committed to eradicating veteran homelessness by providing housing and critical services.
Couldn't ask for anything more.
Please help by donating $11 a month at T2T.org. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Let us do good.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
All right, folks, some breaking news here. President Trump responding tonight to the U.S. strikes in Iran, telling ABC News that the retaliatory strikes were just a love tap. The president also posting on Truth Social, quote, missiles were shot down at our destroyers. They were easily knocked down. Likewise, drones came and they were incinerated while in the air. They dropped ever so beautifully down to the ocean, very much like a butterfly dropping to its grave. Love that guy. All right, this show has long been a leader in defending the American taxpayer and highlighting the good work of DOJ and now the Vice President's Anti-Fraud Task Force. We've reported for months on the rampant fraud in blue states like Minnesota and California, even my home state of Connecticut. But fraud, it's not just limited to Democrat states. Ohio, Republican governor, has a massive problem, too.
We obtained millions of long secret government payment records for Medicaid, the shared state and federal health care program for the poor. What we found shocked us. An endless stream of cookie-cutter home health companies collecting millions from taxpayers.
Medicaid-funded home health services are essentially taxpayer-funded trips to other people's homes where family members are paid to hang out with other family members sometimes that they call their patients. The Daily Wire's government efficiency reporter, Luke Rosiak, the man behind this bombshell report, says this is the worst example of fraud, dude, you have ever seen in your 20 years?
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, it started with home health care. So instead of putting somebody in a nursing home, we'll send a nurse to your house once in a while, and that saves money. And that's probably true. But then they expanded it to let's also send people that'll cook or clean for you and provide other services. They don't have to be nurses at all.
But some of these people are family members that just don't even leave their own home. They just do it to their family members in their own home.
Exactly. So the reason the nursing home, it doesn't make sense because not a lot of people are going to fake their way into it. Will get that doctor's note that unleashes that sweet check where their family member, maybe even their spouse, gets paid just to hang out with them and do the things they'd already be doing.
This is just bananas to me. You've been rolling out stories all week on this, actually. Today, you highlighted the married couple, Mamdani and Canary, and her husband, whatever their names are, both with extensive criminal backgrounds, okay? And behind this true home healthcare system. An empty office that was billed Medicaid. It was billing Medicaid for over $900,000 between May 21 and October 24. 12 patients in May of 21 and 12 patients in October of 2024. Luke?
Yeah, so $1 million for taking care of just a couple hours a day or whatever, 12 patients. The guy, it's owned by a couple. One of them has 30 charges in Franklin County Court. He's got convictions for child endangerment, assault, multiple theft and fraud convictions. His wife, stabs, malicious wounding arrest, she's been convicted of theft 3 times in 3 years. And this was all before they opened their Medicaid. They actually moved to Ohio in order to start billing Medicaid. And apparently I talked to him on the phone. You can hear the audio on my Twitter today where they threatened me. And he said, I'm just too dumb to know the law. That's his excuse. He came to our country and he says but this is his defense. I'm too dumb to even know that I wasn't supposed to steal. I wasn't supposed to give the police fake names. And apparently, according to him, and it seems to be true, he disclosed all that to Medicaid and they were like, yeah, that's fine. You can start your own Medicaid company and here's $1 million.
So, but this is the issue here, and maybe call me crazy. So somebody with malicious wounding from stabbing somebody and abuse and assault, they got paid $1 million for caregiving in someone. I mean, but Governor DeWine, he's a Republican, and he's saying, "Oh, we have no reason to believe that there's alleged fraud taking place." Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, it's theft and falsification, a long criminal record of that. And then they basically submit these invoices to the government and says, hey, I went to this old lady's house and I checked on her. I went to that old lady's house. Well, if you're giving them fake names, if you're giving them the names of old ladies that you enlisted to give them a little kickback in exchange for billing the government against their social, that's a good way to make a lot of money. And it's pretty hard to disprove because it's happening behind closed doors. And so, yeah, DeWine apparently thinks that's fine. And even if you were to take his word for it, that there isn't any fraud, despite there being like criminals and sketchballs behind every door of these buildings that I roam through, best case scenario, you're paying people to hang out with your family.
Yeah, I mean, you would think a guy that's like not running again would be okay with just like going nuclear on this stuff just on his way out the door, but apparently not. Vice President J.D. Vance's anti-fraud task force highlighted your reporting, but found 186,000 dead people getting SNAP benefits.
Yeah, I mean, the government has databases for all kinds of things, and they've never talked to each other. So there's a database of dead people, and there's a database of food stamps. This is computer science 101. You could have done it 20 years ago. Join the two. The government never did it.
Never did it. Luke Rosiak, I appreciate the reporting, brother.
Thanks.
All right, before we go, Thursday, comments for Carl. Let's do it.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine whose lives have been completely destroyed. Family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact. Call now, and your gift's impact will be doubled.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
Thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
I'm Yalmer Heinrich. I'm in the nutritional business, primarily selling plant-derived minerals. Now, after being in this business for 43 years, owning a cancer hospital in Mexico, and associating with some of the most knowledgeable nutritional people in the world, I came to this conclusion. The world is sick due to a lack of minerals in our food, which is caused by a lack of minerals in topsoil. There is an incredible and proven nutritional product on the market that can overcome this problem. It's Immuno 150. This unusual food supplement contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There's nothing like it. Now watch the 3 videos on our website and place your order for what may be the best food supplement in the world. Now Immuno 150 is different, it's real, it's powerful, it's helped thousands, and we believe it enjoys the highest reorder rate in the industry. Thank you and God bless.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's All-American customer service team is standing by.
All right, folks, Thursday, comments for Carl. Let's get right to it. Okay. Edward Garcia says, you probably hired, so I was talking about, obviously support your local ICE raid. So he says you probably hired illegals to do your backyard, and we know it. Actually, no. We vetted our lawn company because of people like you. 2 employees are citizens. One's here on a green card because I don't hire illegals, and I don't want them here anyway. I'm not going to pay them. And at my farm, I maintain that thing myself. So this is probably from a guy who doesn't know how to mix 2-stroke gas, so I'm really not that concerned about it. I tweeted this out the other day that I was, that this was the gender pay gap highlighted. Right here. Okay? People lost their mind pointing out that, the female agents weren't armed. Yes, that's my point. Men go into more dangerous industries. Firefighters are 96% male. Navy SEALs are 100% male, despite being open to women now, thanks Obama. Iron workers, building our skyscrapers, 98% male. This is my point. They ran and hid. My point was that I was not demonizing females. I was demonizing feminists, the ones who run, the men run towards the gunfire because they chose careers to do that, whereas the women in this equation chose the unarmed TSA agents. All right, Rob, I got to call you out. Didn't think about how nasty it was until I walked off set, but roll this.
Brand new.
Yeah, everything's brand new.
Yeah, whatever. Even those jeans. He's probably wearing a thong under those jeans, too. Hey, you said it, not me. Did I?
I threw up in my mouth a little bit, Rob. Gavin Newsom in a thong.
You don't want to think about that?
No.
A little funny.
It is.
Right. Carl, good to see you. All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.